Hi, are we live?
Yes,
Yeah,
we are
so
too.
welcome everyone. Yeah, um, welcome to the panel. If you guys would like to introduce yourselves really quickly, maybe starting with Muazma.
Hi everyone, I'm Muazma. I'm a Principal PM Manager at Microsoft and also lead of at Microsoft ERG.
Yeah, welcome Muazma to the panel. Arpita.
Hi everyone, I'm Arpita. I'm calling from Bangalore, India, and I am currently the design lead for ADPList.
Yeah, welcome Arpita to the panel. Hafsa, maybe.
Hey everyone, this is Hufsa joining in from Islamabad, Pakistan. I am the developer community manager for Google and I look after the staff market. Very happy to be here.
And last but not the least, Edidiong.
Hi everyone, my name is Edidiong. I'm a data scientist at Dubai Aviation and I'm currently joining from Dubai. Happy to be here.
Perfect. So I'm an ML engineer at Spotify. My name is Priyanti, and I'm joining from US, Rochester in New York. I just graduated, and I'm going to start working full time in Microsoft in August. So hoping to see Muazma there, and as well as yeah. Um, okay, so now let's start. I think as a I think as a woman in tech, um, I've seen a lot of things change in the very few years I've spent actively in the industry. But I think a lot of things have not um, really changed, and I feel maybe it's a good time to talk about what has changed, and appreciate the positives, and then start and then maybe move to what we would like to see change in the industry. So maybe starting with Muazma.
Thank you for that question. I think the overall industry and technology industry is advancing at a very fast speed, and everyone has a seat at the table. The things that have changed, or at least I've seen in the last few years, include more inclusion. And then when we talk about inclusion, we talk about three things. So there's diversity, equity, and inclusion. So the inclusion aspect of things have definitely increased or have gone better than what we know of from the past. There's a lot more emphasis on the hiring efforts. There's a lot more emphasis on understanding these pipelines of folks, meeting them where they are, and providing them opportunities to contribute to the tech industry. So that is one. The second thing I do see is leaders and organizations are understanding the importance of listening to these voices, and all voices matter in that sense, right? So when you are in a meeting and there's this one person who's super shy, or somebody who does not speaks up that well, especially people from these minority groups, it's very important that you kind of listen to them. So I'm seeing that trend getting much better. So people are really listening to folks in the room, and that inclusion is also getting better. So that's the second piece. So if you don't include them in their hiring, you don't kind of hire them, that there's no place for them actually to be included in the next step, which is to be part of the culture and contribute towards the technology. So I'll stop there, but there are these are the two positive trends that I see in terms of hiring efforts, and also making organizations and
Um, I think you're cutting out. Am I the only person who this is happening to, or okay? Maybe, okay, while her network recovers, maybe we can move on to Arpita.
Well, I think Muamza covered it really well, but if I have to say something to add to this point would be that people are changing in like their mentality towards gender equality, and what each person deserves is changing. The one where the change doesn't occur very fast is probably because of a long standing way of work, we might call it. So I think that just add on to her point, people are progressing very fast towards it because the people who are coming in now are they don't have that bias, and that is a really good thing that has changed. And I'm looking forward to having more people like that.
Yeah, I think I agree. In terms of from what I've seen, I feel like the glass ceiling exists at multiple levels, and I see a lot of women in engineering management, but not so much at the you know at the levels beyond that. So I think there are levels of a glass ceiling that we still haven't broken while having broken the more introductory ones. Yeah, moving on to Hafsa.
So I think Mosma covered it really well, but let's just talk about the other side of the coin here as well. I
Mhm.
think other than the fact that there's a lot of acceptability, one thing that has changed is also the fact that there are now many more platforms and communities where women can actually join in and really talk about the small issues that they have. I think PWIC is one example that we're talking about where there's so many small issues that perhaps previously women felt very shy talking about, but now that the fact that they have these platforms really enables them to feel more empowered. So I think that's one thing. And another thing that I've really truly enjoyed overall in the IT industry is more case studies, so more stories that women can look up to and more stories they can relate to, and they understand, okay, this is something maybe that's not too achievable, or maybe getting this job, it's not too difficult for me because if this person can do it, so can I. So I think more and more platforms and more stories is something that I've truly enjoyed in the industry for the past 4 years, and I really hope that continues to grow in the years to come as well.
Edidiong?
Now, in addition to what has already been said, I would say that I think that people have come to see firsthand the effect of, not having women in top leadership positions, and how that has affected so much. If you look at some of the top tech companies, you actually see women, in this in top leadership positions, and these companies are actually doing very well. So many organizations, companies, NGOs have come to see the importance, and role that women play. And just like Hafsa had said, we actually have so many women forums that has created that place, that allows women to ask whatever kind of questions they would want to ask, and actually get to know exactly what they are worth and know exactly how to navigate, their path in their current role. And this has really encouraged more women to stay in tech rather than leave, because it got to a point where women felt like, they weren't included in the scheme of things, like this environment wasn't for them. But when you see other women share their experiences and how they were able to navigate that, this helps you, to also take it back to your own company and navigate it, and also, climb just like other people are climbing. So even though the statistics may still be disproportionate, however, we are seeing, increase. And this means that conferences like this, where we are constantly talking about building spaces for women to thrive, is actually doing so much. So we will continue to talk about it.
Yeah, perfect. And I think it's a nice segue to talking about how these spaces that do exist now, how can they work towards promoting their goals and continuing to support and facilitate women's growth in their tech careers. So, Muazma, if you would like to.
Yeah, thank you. So I think in terms of the support, right? So the support exists in multiple levels, right? So there's a support that you're born with. So of course, the family, the people that you rely on. I whenever I talk to anyone who's starting their career early in their career, I definitely encourage you to have build that support system around you, because it's really, really needed outside of work as well. So that's number one, if you're listening to this. The second support, as Hafsa mentioned very well, is different communities that you can definitely join. The stories, the things that she already mentioned, that you can look up to those folks, you can ask questions, you can find mentors, coaches, people like that who can help you in your career. The third place is basically in your work or organization. So look for communities, look for ERGs, look for places where you can find similar folks. But outside of that, even if let's say you don't have those, think about opportunities where you can actually build such things in your organization. So definitely don't shy away. If you have an idea, take it to your leadership or basically start something in your team. So those are some things you can definitely do. But within the organization, I would highly, highly encourage that it's not your job to kind of convince the team to do that. It should be the vice versa, and I think that's where a lot of work has to be done. Usually, all of this actually falls on the folks who are from these minority groups, right? So I would really encourage anyone, any leaders, anyone who's listening, to think about like what can they do to be a better ally, what can they do to listen more, what can they do to actually understand what are the pain points of these folks that have different issues. They come from different background, or gender is one piece of it. I don't really talk about just gender. There's a lot more. So definitely think from that perspective of what can you do more in terms of retention, promotion, uh, accelerating careers into leadership and all of that. So those would be some things, all three, that I would suggest.
Arpita, maybe you can go next because I see that Priyanti left out.
Got it. I think Muamza has covered that pretty well, and mentorship is a huge part. I think it plays a huge role in this entire system. I think stories are being said, but a lot of times mentorship allows you to go a little bit deeper there. So reaching out, I think like in the last year, I have happened to meet a lot of women who want to get into design, and they are very easily intimidated, right? And someone just has to tell them that it's okay. Like, it's okay to get intimidated and it's okay to work through it. So I feel like a support system, along with the allies that are there in our company, like Muamza mentioned, having some people that you can fall back upon and discuss and also analyze the feedback with is super important, like to understand where exactly things are coming from and how you can grow to make it better. So yeah, passing it on to Hafsa.
Thank you. I think you've summarized it really well. I think one of the terms that you mentioned is women growth. I think it's very important to take a step back and really understand what this definition means. What does growth mean? So if you're running a platform that supports these women, it's very important to understand what's the objective for the platform that you are managing, and then define very measurable KPIs against it. One thing that I particularly really like to focus on, and something that I've really felt, is the fact that although we have a lot of talent, sometimes the talent doesn't show up only because of lack of confidence, just because you feel like, okay, maybe my story is not good enough, maybe I can't share it. But I think a lot of work also needs to be done on that confidence building, and the fact that it's okay for you to accept that you're remarkable and you're truly great. And then also a lot of soft skill development, just for you to be able to showcase what is it that you're thinking. So I think a few of these aspects, if we really tie them together, we can see an immense growth. Like you mentioned, women growth, but again, I think it's good to just take the step back and understand the definition of it exactly.
Perfect. Passing it on to Edidiong.
So, in addition to what has been said, just like Arpita made mention of mentorship, have come to realize that when you have someone you can talk to, they always say there's this popular proverb that says that a problem shared is a problem half solved. And so, when you share your problem with someone, you're already on the path to get that problem solved. And through mentorship, now women are more vocal, about whatever kind of injustice that they are facing at work. And this kind of, amounts to some form of growth, because you're going from being that lady that was always intimidated, and pushed to the back, and becoming someone who can speak up for their rights, because you know what you're worth and you know that you add value to your team. And so this is very, very great, and it's really important when we're talking about leadership and women growing at work.
Thanks so much for sharing your views, guys, and for covering for me while my internet was messing up. Um, I think to add to this, I've often seen that diversity and inclusion teams, I mean, while they start off well, in a well-meaning way and probably well-intentioned, oftentimes it becomes more about hitting KPIs and show performing out measurability and just the more performative aspects of it, rather than doing more authentic work and I guess actually achieving their goals if that makes sense. So how do you guys think these teams that are now specifically starting to, or big companies especially, and maybe now mid-tier companies as well, are starting to focus on diversity and inclusion initiatives and hiring teams that specifically tackle these challenges? What can they do to sort of prop their goals up in a more authentic way rather than more, just performatively? Would anyone want to take the lead? If not, maybe I can call someone.
I can say some things about it. So this is one of my favorite quote, which is like diversity is having a seat at the table, inclusion is having a voice, and belonging is having that voice to be heard. So a lot of these communities, ERGs, people who are doing really well in the first two, right? So they are doing hiring folks, they are doing the inclusion, making sure there's some work done in that sense. The last piece is the most important one, where those voices needs to be heard to actually get to the next level. That's where it's responsibility, and I say it in a lot of places, it's responsibility of each and every person in your organization. It's not the responsibility of that committee or some person who has actually hired some folks into your group, but it's the responsibility of everyone. Every meeting, every conversation, every decision that you take is to make sure that voices are being heard. And I really want that to become a norm, rather than people saying it over and over again in every forum, and making sure that happens. So some of these communities where you actually can bring the cultural change, right, where you can bring that motion in your teams, where people are really being heard, they are being included, they are part of the decision making process, that's where you see the most innovation happening. That's where you see the most effectiveness. So your KPIs, as you said, right, pretty much they are up to these numbers about what is your hiring numbers, what are your kind of promotion numbers. So those are some things people are starting to measure, which is amazing that we are doing that. But I want to go further, and next step is to actually bring it to a point where these voices are being heard, and it becomes a norm and becomes part of your team culture and everything that you do in terms of innovation.
Perfect. Anyone else have any thoughts?
I think I'd add on. So, in terms of diversity and inclusion, I would probably not say this is just related to gender. If we have to go a little further, it's a lot about culture, especially companies. By culture, I mean the cultural differences across the globe, right? So when there are large organizations which are so globally spread out, understanding these differences could really benefit into connecting your teams, into building the right teams that could work, and even moderating the problems and the communication within that team. So acknowledging and understanding individual differences, yes, is super important, but also the cultural differences. Nowadays, given the world has gone remote, a lot of us are working with people from different parts of the world sometimes. And acknowledging that culture plays a very important role is really, really important to grow as a leader, as someone who has to moderate people, right? So, yes, that is something I would like to add on for diversity.
Perfect. I think we're just at the end of the session. So yeah, thanks so much, guys, for being here and for accommodating my technical difficulties as well. Really appreciate that. And yeah, hope you've had a good time sort of sharing your views, and I've had a good time listening to your guidance and advice as well. So yeah, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you
Thank you
so
for
much for
having
being
us.
Thank you.
yeah,
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
moderator.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.